There was a little bit of unexpected movement out of Oxnard today, as the Dallas Cowboys made a quiet but telling addition to their roster by signing cornerback Christian Matthew following a Monday evening workout. The signing, first reported by ESPN's Adam Schefter, might seem insignificant at first glance, but it highlights just how thin things have gotten in the Cowboys' secondary during training camp. Matthew isn't a household name, and truthfully, even many draft analysts didn't have him on their radar when he came into the league. He's a long, physical corner with prototypical Cowboys, size 6'2", 195 eaves, 33.5-inch arms, and a 41.5-inch vertical, the kind of measurables the Dallas front office always seems to fall in love with. He's had a journeyman career, spending time with Arizona, Chicago, and Baltimore, mostly contributing on special teams and occasionally rotating in as a depth corner. Over 20 career games, he's been targeted 21 times and allowed 14 completions for 158 yards, with no touchdowns surrendered and 3 pass breakups. Nothing earth-shattering, but the kind of quiet competence teams can use when depth is dwindling. And depth is definitely an issue right now. Between Trevon Diggs still sitting on the PUP list, Darren Bland easing back after the birth of his child, and Andrew Booth and Kaiir Carson both missing time due to injury, the Cowboys have suddenly found themselves running low on bodies at one of the most important positions on the field. Kaiir Elam has been a bright spot, but even he can't carry a preseason workload by himself, especially if Dallas doesn't want to risk injury to top contributors. The rest of the available cornerback room looks like a mix of practice squad, hopefuls, and injury question marks. Izzy Mukuamu, Troy Pride, Bruce Harmon, Kemon Hall, and Robert Rochelle. That's not a list you want to enter the regular season with, let alone lean on heavily during the preseason. So yes, signing Christian Matthew is a camp body move, but it's one rooted in a real and growing concern. This team needs healthy corners now. And yet, at the time of the signing, the Cowboys haven't announced who they're releasing to make room for Matthew on the 90-man roster. A cut will be coming. It might be another fringe corner, like Bruce Harmon, or a wide receiver from the lower end of the depth chart, like Josh Kelly or Kelvin Harmon. Maybe it's even someone like Ernest Brown IV, who feels buried behind the rest of the defensive line. Regardless of who's let go, it's clear this is a move of necessity, not long-term planning. Matthew probably isn't making the 53-man roster. But with preseason looming and key names still on the mend, the Cowboys need all the help they can get just to field a defense for now. But beyond the immediate transaction, what this signing really reflects is how thin the Cowboys' cornerback room has become due to injuries and uncertainty. When your training camp roster is being tested this hard this early, it forces front offices to scramble for stopgap solutions. Christian Matthew might not be a household name, and he certainly isn't a top-tier option to plug into Dan Quinn's defense, but he represents the kind of emergency depth that teams rely on during the grind of camp. With Trevon Diggs still not ready, Savion Redwell stuck on the NFI list, and younger guys like Andrew Booth Jr. and Kaiir Carson banged up or inconsistent, Dallas simply needed a warm body with NFL experience who could line up on the outside and not be a complete liability. The problem is, this doesn't bring them closer to solving their real question: who starts opposite Darren Bland if Diggs isn't ready for Week 1? The reality is that Matthew is just another temporary name on a long list of corners cycling through Oxnard until bodies heal or someone unexpectedly flashes. And that's where this move, small as it seems, intersects with the larger concern facing Dallas heading into the season. The Cowboys pride themselves on building a defense that can dominate it at every level: fast, aggressive, and physical. But when you don't have your full complement of corners, that system starts to crack. Quinn relies on press coverage, trust in man-to-man matchups, and timing that only works when you have continuity and confidence in your secondary. With Diggs out, Booth and Carson uncertain, and no clear breakout camp star at corner yet, the team risks entering September with a patchwork unit, which is the last thing they need going up against elite wideouts early in the season. Players like Kaiir Elam and Israel Mukwamu are promising, but asking them to carry the load without a proven veteran alongside them is a gamble, especially in a division where every passing game is potent. So while Mathieu is technically just a camp body, his presence underscores a deeper issue. The Cowboys aren't just banged up, they're dangerously thin at a position they can't afford to be weak. Now the pressure is back on the Cowboys scouting department and front office to either find another available veteran with more upside or hope for miracle recoveries from key players. And the truth is, there aren't many options left on the free agent market. If Booth or Carson suffer setbacks, or if Diggs' return is delayed further, Dallas may be forced to pull the trigger on a late preseason trade just to survive early season matchups. And with how valuable every game will be in a tightly packed NFC, one or two blown coverages, due to a lack of depth, could mean the difference between home field advantage or a road trip in January. That's how fine the margins are. So yes, Christian Mathieu is unlikely to be a game changer, but the decision to bring him in is about more than just filling a camp spot. It's a window into how vulnerable this secondary really is, and how the Cowboys may need to make a much bigger move before this turns from a mild concern into a full-blown crisis. The clock is ticking for Dallas to find answers before preseason action heats up and roster decisions become irreversible. The coaching staff can't afford to rely solely on hope that Diggs will be 100% by week 1, hope that Booth's hamstring heals in time, hope that Carson shakes off his early struggles. Hope doesn't win games in the NFL. If anything, this stretch of training camp should serve as a loud wake-up call for the Cowboys. The talent is there on defense, but the depth is not. And in a league where injuries are inevitable, depth is the difference between being a playoff team and a legitimate Super Bowl contender. The Christian Mathieu signing may not make headlines, but the desperation behind it speaks volumes. Now it's up to Will McClay and the front office to determine whether patching holes with low-cost signings is enough, or if it's time to swing bigger and make a bold move to stabilize the secondary before it unravels.